Welcome back to the R.D.C. show. Richard,
Derek,
Ryan, Chris.
Special guest Brian sitting in for the show, first time. This week we're going to jump right into the big headline news, the crazy man shooting the people in the theater in Colorado, John Holmes.
James Holmes.
James Holmes, my bad.
It wasn't John the Wad.
He's in there throwing it around. Yeah. Basically, the topic here is going to be, can words kill? Did Rush Limbaugh's words have any effect on this man? I can tell you on the 18th of this month, I have it recorded, but the recording is really bad, so we've chosen not to play it. But Rush started his campaign about the movie being a Democratic conspiracy set by Hollywood and by the Democrats to make people hate Mitt Romney for Bain Capital. 2 segments later, he starts in saying, "Doctors, I am going to warn you about Obama trying to crush your dreams," and basically say you can't make any money. I don't know if those things influence this man or if he was just crazy. Let's see what our guests have to say. What do you think about it, Big D?
I don't know.
You think
I don't
words
think it's
influenced at all?
Well, I think words influence, but you know what the thing is, dude? I was actually thinking about this week. It's just like in that Eminem song when he's saying, you know, something about just because he tells a kid to do something on his album doesn't make a kid has to go do it.
Well, that's okay. I understand.
So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he's still got his own choice. I don't think what Rush said, you can't blame it on what somebody says, though. You know, that's all I got.
This guy was just a flat out loon.
It was deeper than that, man.
I think it was a plan. He had a plan, and it was he had that planned out, man. He planned it out.
All there is to it.
So he had it planned a lot longer than just Rush speaking about it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Although I did find it very interesting that Rush didn't show up for his own show on Friday.
Yes.
Coward.
Yeah, that was different.
So what happened? Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't want to face because he did talk a lot of crap. And I can tell you, with people like that, words carry along a lot of weight.
Yes, they do.
For example, you know the person. I know some people that are pretty hard believers, and if Rush was to come out and say that Obama's coming to take your guns tomorrow, these people have already told me they would be locked and loaded and waiting for anyone to come for them.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Words can affect people. Because let me tell you a story.
We just talked about that the other day.
Back in
people need to listen and try to think for themselves. So because that's what we're
most of my life, I considered myself a Democrat, I guess, or someone who cared for people. So I guess I would be called Evil Lib. Back in 2004, I contracted a disease known as Legionella, otherwise known as Legionnaire's disease. I was basically unable to work from 2004 to 2006. In that time, my life was so shitty and so pushed down, and everything was going against me. I had no money coming in. I had nothing. I was pushed to the brink of, I wanted to die. But I had a child at home, so I had to fight through it and live, and I had to take care of her. But it was so hard because I had no income coming in. I was screwed over by this. I couldn't work for 2 years. I didn't get no money from the workman's comp, thanks to Governor Engler when he was in office, because it was a bacteria. And since the health department didn't find where I got the bacteria, I basically just was screwed. But in that time, I started listening to Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, and I was a different person when I listened to them. I'm not gonna lie. I was angry. I hated the world, and there was times where I thought about killing people with the things I heard on there. I'm not making it up. When I first met you, Derek, you were a hardcore believer, and your attitude on life was a lot worse. Look it.
Right.
You wouldn't say the things to your girl today that you were saying when I first met you. Remember, women shouldn't have rights. They shouldn't be allowed to vote. And that was all because that was all because of the feminazi shit that Rush always talks. And
I still sort of think that a little bit, though, man.
But you don't talk about that anymore.
I think women have pussified the government, and that's why it's more corrupt than ever. And I don't think that is actually something that the man is actually, it's not like a plan. It's just their effect on the man.
Well,
it makes a man think different when you got a woman with you.
Well, all I'm trying to say is when people listen to him, it rubs off on him.
Yes.
I was a much angrier person.
He's got a clan,
I remember saying at my daughter's birthday party that Barack Hussein Obama, and I said it that exact way, was going to be the downfall of America because that's what I kept hearing from Rush and Hannity. So I do believe that stuff can influence someone's mind. Someone that's pushed to the brink of having nothing, doesn't care, nobody cares about him. Then you hear this guy who's sitting on this talk show talking about he cares about you, he cares about where you come from. But then America, I woke up and I started researching everything they said and realizing that a lot of what they tell you is true, but a lot of what they tell you is spewed to one side of the fence.
Yes.
They never want to admit Republicans are wrong. They never want to take blame for this. If this guy, was a Republican and is a conservative, you would never hear about it because they wouldn't want it to come to light.
Right.
If he was a Democrat or some crazy lib, Rush would be the first one talking about it, and so would Sean Hannity.
Right.
But everybody jumped on Bob Ross from ABC News because in that morning, and I watched the whole interview, they said, "Do you got anything on John Holmes? James Holmes. Do you have anything on James Holmes?" And he said, "The only James Holmes we're finding in Colorado right now is one that's Tea Party member who was 50-some years old."
Yeah.
And he said, "I don't know if that's the man," and he never said it was him. But Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, or not Rush because he was a coward, didn't show up. But Sean Hannity and who was it? Stein? Who filled in for Rush?
Yeah.
Whoever filled in for Rush,
Yeah,
all proceeded
Mark Stein.
to attack
Or Mark Davis,
ABC News and say they jumped to judgment. Now the guy never said it was him. All he simply said was, "That's the only one I'm finding on register right now." He never came out and said, "Definite, this is him," and they all attack him and make this big deal. But I don't know. It seems like whenever something's on their side, like you were saying earlier, Christopher, they talk about all the negative campaigning, but yet they come out and say Obama needs to be hit with all the negative campaigning you can give him.
I'd have to say that probably, part of what you say is right, and like Derek and Brian pointed out that this was, this guy had his shit together. This was a long.
Well, I'm not saying
time.
that I'm not saying that he did that because of hearing Rush. I'm just saying that people need to know that words are stronger than swords, or like you say, pins.
I said that, but my point is that it's conceivable that this guy reacted to what Rush said, had a plan already set in motion, didn't have a defined target yet.
Exactly.
But the rhetoric of Rush Limbaugh and the others, people, Fox News, everybody that reported it and just beat on it. I never heard them talk about one subject for so long in a day. Usually they'll talk about it for a half an hour. It's not fucking two. It's not an hour and a half. They really hammered it home their point about that movie being a evil, brainwashing liberal movie, when in fact the movie began. They began filming it 2 years ago in 2010, long before they ever knew who Mitt Romney was going to run.
Exactly.
So it's totally ridiculous.
So it's a total ridiculous
But
statement.
it's possible that you could have somebody that was mentally fucked up, that they thought this was their message from God when they hear this on the radio. It's possible.
Right. What does Rush always say?
I
Talent from God. He always says that.
What are you saying, Brian?
Before this even happened, he bought 4 guns, 4 different local stores, and 6,000 rounds of ammunition.
Yeah.
See,
come on.
now that goes.
You know
what I'm waiting on?
That throws out the insanity defense right there, because he's been rational
I'm
and
sorry,
playing.
they were saying that shit on the radio earlier today. He did. He's playing this shit out.
Well, Christopher had a good point off camera. He asked, how long is it going to be before Rush Limbaugh says that Obama set this up so he can have gun control?
Yeah.
That's the next crazy thing to come out of Rush's mouth.
Well, if causing violence in another country is going to get our gun control changed, I don't see how, because there's plenty of gun violence in all parts of the world.
Right.
So, I thought that was kind of ridiculous. It's another one of those things, like I said a couple weeks before the dove hunt. They just take any little subject, they kind of just blow the fuck out of it. And, they try to scare the shit out of people. And that's why I'm turned off with the Republican Party. I'm not voting Democrat. I'm not. But the Republican Party just turns me off in their dishonesty. They claim to be just conservatives.
I'll do that shit.
And they're not conservative. They slash taxes, okay, but they increase spending at a shitload, which causes the debt to explode.
Like after
just
this,
right in the people.
After this incident happened,
Just write that in.
I heard Glenn Beck on his show saying that there's a hole in America, and a hole in America's heart. And yes, there is, but they being Rush Limbaugh, Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Glenn Beck, they fill it with hate. That's
it.
all they talk about is hate, hate, hate.
And it's supposed to be
and
all
how
sincere.
bad the other
And
people
it's supposed
are.
to be all sincere.
It's
you know?
fear.
Yeah,
though.
like,
It's a
come
fear
on,
campaign.
man.
You're gonna your internet's gonna your computer's gonna get hacked and all your shit's
Yeah.
gonna get stolen. You know all this.
Right.
The IRS is gonna get you. That's what their commercials are all about.
Yeah, right.
You know, so it's just a fear campaign.
So
I like listening to it anyway because it's funny.
stay on the
It prepares you for any argument with any Republican person
Yeah.
that you know.
Right, right.
Because whatever the fuck
It's like,
they're gonna
you don't
just
know-
repeat
yeah,
what the fuck
exactly
they're saying.
right.
I'm already prepared. I already heard
Never
your part of the
Hannity.
story.
I've noticed every time Hannity gets really caught with a good question, he's like, "Let me ask you a question."
It's
like, come on, dude.
Never answers
Fucking
the
little weasel.
liberals'
Yeah.
Answers the
question.
question with the question.
Yep. Well, it's just like, you know, a
But I
couple
would
weeks
just like
ago.
to say though, I mean, we might people might see us as I might be conservative, you know, Democrat, you know, whatever.
I'm
But
an
we're
American.
nobody.
That's
We're
all I
nothing.
am.
We're
I'm
no
just an
party.
American.
We are
Yeah,
no
believe
party.
it, none of them. Because you know what? I blame
And we can
Obama.
speak to each other, regardless if we have different views or not.
I blame Obama as much as I blame Rush Limbaugh, because under his administration, guns and bullets have been easier for people to get, and he made it that way. Yeah, I can't have a joint, but everybody can have a fucking gun and a goddamn bullet. You just said he bought 6,000 rounds of ammunition.
6,000
Now, should there
In
not
60
be
days.
Should there not be somebody monitoring that kind of stuff?
On
Don't
the
you
internet.
think
You
when
don't
that
really,
happens?
you don't
Internet,
give your
though.
On the
ID to
internet.
buy ammunition. You don't
Yeah, but
Buy
there
that shit
should
off
be.
the internet.
Yeah, I heard that
There
shit
should
earlier.
be. That stuff should be
Wow.
monitored. You shouldn't
Four different
allow.
guns at local
That should
stores.
not be
What purpose
Right.
does the average human need
Rifles,
6,000 rounds for?
Two
Dude,
things
not
I
even
gotta
just
say
guns,
about
rifles, man.
well, two
A
things I
rifle.
gotta say
Two
about this in
rifles,
regards to the gun
exactly.
control and
Shotguns
everything.
you can get, handgun you can get.
One
rifles.
is, if he's going to
It
use it
should be
for
that
those
easy.
purposes,
It
shouldn't be that
it's
easy.
not going to bother him to obtain it. You know, if you're going to use a firearm for an illegal purpose, like you're planning on robbing a bank, obtaining an illegal firearm and a shitload of ammo is not going to be an obstacle for you because you're already planning on breaking the law. So what the fuck do you care?
Yeah.
So all that stuff tends
True.
to hurt the honest gun owners. Another thing is, if this guy didn't have access to guns, who's to say he wouldn't have just mixed up some chemicals he bought at the fucking hardware store and made a bomb out of them? He could have easily made a fucking chemical weapon,
Well, yeah,
unleashed
if-
it and whipped it into
If
the
somebody's
car and
gonna
killed
kill
everybody in the motherfucker.
Somebody's gonna kill somebody. They're gonna kill.
Exactly, my
Somebody.
point.
It's the person, and that was, you know, when we started this whole thing, I was gonna go into a long story, which I started to do, but to go back to the point that, look, I have Batman posters behind me. I've read the comic books. I play the video games that are now being prosecuted. I've watched every scary, horrible movie in the world. In the past, the only person I've ever thought of hurting is myself. So you can't blame those kind of things. Just like when when this first happened, I wanted to come on the show today and I wanted to attack Rush and I wanted to say it was his fault. But it's not his fault. Inside of all of us is good and evil. And you have to choose how much to let it out. Some people can, some people can't.
that rhetoric does have the potential to set off an
Yeah, it
unstable
does.
individual,
Yes.
and so it does have some weight to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
could have been a
it
trigger.
does.
But in the
It does.
end,
But he
There's
still
no way of knowing.
got he still got all that
The
shit
guy playing
beforehand
it,
though.
like
too.
you said,
But
the
in
guy
the
was
end, a
playing
video
it, he was
game-
doing something. He was going to do
but
something.
in the end, the video
That
game
just
could have
made
set
his
him
mind
off.
up right there.
A video game
Maybe.
could have set him off. A movie could have set
Maybe
him
it
off.
was a video
TV
game,
show
too.
could have set him off. Are we going to stop everybody from watching movies?
Right. No.
Playing video games?
Don't
Are
you
we gonna
remember
end
all the
violence?
ridiculousness around
What
heavy
we
metal
have
and
to.
shit?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Remember about subliminal messages
Yeah.
and some, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I just the other
We
day on
even
Laura,
rated and
when this stuff happened on Laura Ingram's show, she had a preacher on there, and why did he start attacking? Video games and movies, violence and movies. Well, people play a video game and they kill people, 60 people in a minute. You know what, people? I've played every game since Atari.
yeah.
I have
Doesn't
never
mean you wanna
once
go
grabbed.
kill somebody.
I have
No,
never once
no
grabbed a
fun.
gun and tried to kill somebody.
I never even thought
That is,
about.
that is the. If
Oh,
I
yeah,
want,
you never ever
if
held
someone
a
makes
gun
me
ever
mad
in
to the
my
point I
life.
want to kill him, I get online to kill him because then I don't gotta go to jail and get booty raped by anybody. I can kill him. I just be like, all right, bitch, I'm gonna get you now, and I start hunting down some person.